How you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at two of the figures in the new Marvel Legends 6-inch Captain Marvel Kree Sentry Build-A-Figure wave from Hasbro. Now the two figures I'm going to be taking a look at are young Nick Fury and Captain Marvel herself. Now both of these figures are based on the new movie and they come packaged in the same style that we see with all the Marvel Legend figures. You've got the black box with the Legend Series logo up at the top. With both figures you've got that Captain Marvel symbol there at the very top, and then the figures are clearly displayed in the window packaging. Down below you've got the Captain Marvel movie logo and the names of the characters. On the sides of the packaging you've got images of the characters from the movie, and then on the back of the packaging you also have the same images of the characters from the movie, and this is a little bit different. Normally we would see images of the actual action figures, but recently they started going with the movie figures. They started showing images of the characters from the actual movie. And then we've got brief bios for both characters. So we've got Nick Fury and then Captain Marvel herself. And then down below we have a look at all the figures in this wave that you need to get in order to complete the Kree Sentry Build-A-Figure. All right, let's get these open and take a look at what's inside. So here's a look at the figures outside of the packaging along with the other contents. Now between these two figures, the only one that comes with a Build-A-Figure piece is the Nick Fury figure, which comes with the right arm for the Kree Sentry, and I will be taking a look at that in its own review once I've looked at all the figures in this wave, so be sure to check back for that. Now for actual accessories for the figures themselves, starting with Captain Marvel, she comes with two different pairs of hands. So you get a pair of closed-fisted hands, and then you get this pair of open hands with the fingerless gloves, and then besides the extra hands, you also get two different head sculpts with this figure. So you get the helmeted head with the hair sticking out the top there, so it looks kind of like a mohawk, and you've got some wash effect in the hair there. Pretty good sculpting on the hair, I like that. And then you've got the metallic red with the whited out eyes, and you've got some metallic blue on the sides of the helmet, and then pretty good skin tone there with her cheeks, and she's got just kind of a smirk on her face with this one. So overall, I think this head sculpt with the helmet actually looks pretty good. Now the second head sculpt is an unmasked head sculpt, and with this version she has the longer hair, and the hair again is done with that kind of brown, so it gives her that dirty blonde look, and you have some wash effect. It looks a little bit too dark compared to what we see in the movie, if you want my honest opinion as far as her hair goes. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it seems like her hair is a lighter color in the actual movie. And as far as the face sculpt goes, I've got to be honest, when you compare it to other recent Marvel Legend movie figures, the likeness is not as good as what we have been seeing from Hasbro. It's not horrible, but I definitely can't say it looks 100% like Brie Larson. And the skin tone's okay, and the eyes actually look decent, but again, it just doesn't strike me quite. The likeness is just not dead on like we've been seeing with a lot of recent Marvel Legend movie figures. Now with Nick Fury, he comes with a pistol, which we've seen in the line many times before, which he can only hold in his right hand. His left hand is sculpted open, and it's done with just a black plastic, so you've got decent detailing, but not a lot of paint applications on this. And then the second accessory he comes with is this strange cat alien that's in handcuffs and has a muzzle over its mouth. So I don't know the full story behind this yet since I haven't seen the movie. But the downside to this is it really can't stand on its own power. You can kind of lean it up against the figure, but there's really no articulation or very little articulation. Almost looks like they're joints, but nothing really moves, especially this tail. If this tail had more movement, you could probably position it so you could help the figure stand. You can turn the tail a little bit, but it's not really articulated. And because the legs are basically different heights, at least with mine, you can see this leg is longer than this one. You know, like I said, getting this thing to stand on its own power is next to impossible. So really all you can do is just kind of lean it up against the figure if you want to display it with the Nick Fury. Now for the figures themselves, starting with Captain Marvel, I gotta say the paint applications on this one, they're not horrible, but they're not great either. I've got a couple places where it looks like, you know, you can kind of start seeing some red come through here on the gold here on these shoulder pads. And these shoulder pads are separate pieces. They're made with a rubber material, and then you've got these gold markings down here, which at first I thought were paint splotches, but it's on both sides. It's just two little gold dots on each side, so I do think that's part of the costume. But like here around her star, which is sculpted on there, you can see some blue kind of coming through there, so that looks a little bit off. And the red here on her upper torso is a little bit different color. It's not quite as metallic as like what you see on her arms and stuff. It looks pretty good overall, but you know, there's a little bit different shade there. And then you've got the gold markings, and these are sculpted here on her chest plate with the star, and she's got the belt with some sculpting detail on there. And you've got the gold outline, even though it gets kind of dingy. The gold gets kind of dingy there on the belt. So sculpting wise, I think the figure is pretty good, but the paint applications maybe could be a hair better. You know, again, based on other figures that we've seen recently in the movie line, this one just isn't as exciting to me. Now the Nick Fury, I think the head sculpt looks better on Nick Fury. It definitely looks like Samuel L. Jackson. I do have some paint blemish here where the hair, it looks like the black is kind of worn off here on his hair. So you've got some brown just kind of sticking out there. So that looks a little bit funny. But overall, I think the sculpting on the head sculpt for Nick Fury, the young Nick Fury, is pretty good. And then you've got this suited body, which is a little bit different than previous suited bodies that we've seen. It's not the exact same shirt. You've got his collar here is unbuttoned and his tie is kind of pulled down. So that's a little bit different than previous figures. I've got, you know, it looks like, again, some brown washing over on the white of the shirt there. I don't know how well you can see that, but if you look at the figure from the top, it looks a little bit off. And then he's just got the white shirt underneath. He does have a holster, a shoulder holster sculpted on there. You can't actually stick his gun in there, unfortunately, but they did sculpt that on there. And the coat itself is a removable piece made with that vinyl material, like we've seen with other figures like the Agent Coulson and such, but the sleeves of the coat are actually sculpted. Again, though, it's not like the same body as Agent Coulson. This figure is actually taller, which I'll show you in a minute. And it's not even like the exact same body as the chameleon body that we've seen. A little bit difference with the wrinkles on the pants and everything. Very similar, but there are some minor differences there. He's got the belt with the silver belt buckle, and then he's got the kind of shiny black patent shoes that he's wearing, and again, just the black pants. So a very basic looking figure, but seems to capture the likeness. And they kind of made it so you can have him like posed. That's how he is in the packaging, where it looks like he's kind of loosening his tie. I don't know if that has any significance. The tie, like we've seen with other suited figures, is a separate piece and is made with that kind of flexible vinyl material, and it's done with a gray color, and the rest of the suit is just a solid black color. So Nick Fury is taller than Captain Marvel, though if you have the helmeted head on with the hair that sticks up, they are pretty much the same height in that regard. But Nick Fury here, he stands at about just under 6.5 inches tall. And then again, with this helmeted head with the hair that sticks up, it comes pretty close to 6.5 inches as well. Okay, and here's a comparison of the Nick Fury with the Agent Coulson figure, and you can see Fury is taller. These are not the same figures, just using different head sculpts and hands. And then also my makeshift Tony Stark figure using the chameleon body. And again, you can see Nick Fury is a bit taller. And again, these are not the same figures. There are some minor differences between the two. Here's a comparison of the modern Nick Fury figure, and you can see the height between these two is pretty similar. And just in case if you were wondering, you can switch out the heads between these two Nick Fury heads. Now this one fits a little bit loose, but you can make it work. And then with this one, it fits well, but the skin tone of the neck is a little bit different than the skin tone of the face with this head sculpt. So that looks a little bit off, but really, again, if you wanted to switch them out for whatever reason, you can do it. Now for Captain Marvel, here's a comparison of the comic book version. And here's a comparison of the MCU Ronin figure and Thanos figures. Articulation on Nick Fury, you can turn the head to the left, the right, it's on a ball hinge joint. He can look down pretty good, and he can also look up pretty good. You don't really get much in the way of head pivot, a little bit, but not too much. The arms are attached with your standard ball hinge joint there at the shoulder, so you can get his arm out good, has good rotation, has a bicep swivel, has a double hinged elbow, so good bending there at the elbow, has rotation with the hands, and does have hinges, but the sleeves kind of come over the hinges, so it does limit that movement somewhat. He's got an ab crunch joint, so he can crunch forward. And then with the coat on, he can really only look back about that much at the midsection. He does not have a waist swivel. The legs, he can only do the splits about that much. He can get his leg forward good, and he can do his leg back about that much. He's got a thigh swivel. He's got a double jointed knee, so good bending there at the knee. And then with the feet, he has hinges, so back and forth movement. And he does have ankle pivot with this one, and 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. In Marvel, she can turn her head to the left and to the right. She can look down about about that much, and then she can look up pretty good as well, so that's good for flight poses. Again, you don't get a whole lot of head pivot with this one. With the arms, even with the shoulder pads, she can get her arms out pretty good there. Again, because those shoulder pads are just a rubber material, she's got good rotation. She does not have a bicep swivel though. She has single hinged elbows like most Marvel Legend female figures, so she has the rotation there at the elbow, and then she can bend her elbow about that much. She has rotation with the hands and hinges on the hands, so up and down movement, and then with the midsection she can rotate there and she can pivot to the left and the right, and then she can only crunch forward about that much and then can look back about that much. She does not have a waist swivel. The legs, she can do the splits that much. She can get her leg forward pretty good, and then she can do her leg out and back. She has a thigh swivel, a double hinged knee, so good bending there at the knee, and then with the feet you have back and forth movement, and you do have ankle pivot and 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I've got to say, while these aren't bad figures, I don't really consider them to be stellar figures, and maybe I'm just a little bit spoiled after seeing the figures in that second wave of Black Panther movie figures with the head sculpts and everything. The paint applications on these are a little bit lackluster. You've got some issues with fading and paint blemishes and stuff. And just this wave, or at least these 2 figures in this wave, just kind of strike me as being rushed. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's how it comes off to me. I do like this head sculpt with the young Nick Fury, but the Captain Marvel, you know, the unmasked head really does not look like that much like Brie Larson to me. And again, when you compare it to other recent Marvel Legend movie figures, these just seem a little bit lackluster to me. Now, I would probably even go as far as to say with the Captain Marvel figure, since there is not a Build-A-Figure piece included with that one, that you might even want to wait and get the upcoming store exclusive version that will have the power effect pieces and everything. That one seems like maybe is a little bit cooler looking figure overall. And again, because there's no Build-A-Figure piece with this one, you know, it really wouldn't hurt you if you passed on it, unless you're just a huge Captain Marvel fan. Now, both of these figures, along with the rest of the wave, has started to see a limited release, but I would suspect we'll start seeing it in greater numbers at retailers around the 15th of this month. We'll have a full image gallery up at marvelousnews.com. There'll be a link in the video description below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and also hit the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. You can also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I have links to all those in the video description as well. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.